About 10 years ago, I took my father to an aging and innovation event. He was a former research scientist, inventor, explorer, and I thought it would be fun to go to. At the time, I was working as a consultant to Veterans Affairs in healthcare IT as a technical program manager, and I loved the mission, but I did feel something was missing. Little did I know that that event would change the trajectory of my path. There were several people there talking about the changes that were happening demographically as we spoke, with older adults tipping that balance in the population, and also talking about the endless opportunities there were that laid before us. There was one person who really stood out that day, and that was Rachel Francine of SingFit. Not only did she get up on stage and talk about the powerful connection between music and memory, but she also did something that was very touching. Afterwards, my father wanted to go talk to her. And so we waited until she was free, and then we approached her, and Dad shared some ideas. And she listened intently, and then she looked at him and said, "You know, you're the type of person that we would want to be on our product panel." And you could see his face light up. You can see that he felt heard and that his opinion mattered. And that moment will always stay with me. Developing technology to address the challenges of aging may not be enough. You can still have the greatest ideas and it can fail. There are many reasons for this kind of adoption problem. Anything from not truly understanding users' needs to collecting insights but in a very biased way. They didn't involve them in the design process. And it could be a matter of who's going to pay for that product. The system isn't set up so that it's clear, a clear pathway to awareness of the product, accessibility to it, and ultimately who's going to support that product once it's out in the field. I worked for a CEO who would talk a lot about his mother-in-law, about her ideas, her feedback, and while meaningful, it wasn't market research. I promoted the idea of user experience research. I advocated for it. I was really surprised by the resistance. And at that moment, I realized that organizations don't necessarily need more ideas. They need a way to test them before they make investments into them. And that's why I created Gaman Insights. I sit in between organizations and communities that they serve. I listen, I conduct research, and I amplify the voices of older adults and caregivers. I design, I take those insights to make better products, services, and programs. And I deliver. So I see it through, the project through piloting, testing, and then ultimately implementation. So I move between community, design, organization, and implementation. So in my career, I've worked decades in high-tech, healthcare IT, and user experience. And in parallel, I've also worked and been heavily involved in community. I worked for large global corporations and worked abroad. And I've also helped to steer the ship on small nonprofit organizations. And I realized that my strength doesn't lie in just one particular area, but it really is about being able to connect between those environments and between those sectors to help move things forward. So after my father passed away, I was going through his belongings and I had discovered something pretty incredible. He had been thinking about aging a lot more than I realized. He had written articles on creating a day to honor older adults. He also put on events to talk about creating retirement communities. He even went as far as to have this idea around a foundation that would leverage the expertise and knowledge of older adults in their retirement years to be able to help problem solve society's greatest challenges. And then in 1978, he actually sat before a congressional hearing before several subcommittees, and one of them was an aging subcommittee. He presented on and he discussed how sensors could be used to improve the safety of older adults in their homes. So he was thinking about this long before I ever would. So if you're building a product, services, or programs for older adults and caregivers and really want to understand the need, I'd love to talk to you. I help organizations do the research, gather those insights and turn them into action, and then to see implementation through. That's what Gaman Insights is all about.